this lesson, we're taking a look at pattern 4 of the minor pentatonic scale. Like all the other patterns so far, we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive and take a look at the scale shape, as well as the root notes and intervals, the finger options, the options for string bends, and learn a lick in this pattern so you can instantly start turning it into music. This is part of my minor pentatonic series where we're covering all 5 patterns, and I also gave a bit of info about the theory and terminology about the minor pentatonic scale in the first lesson, so check that out if you haven't already. You'll also find a link for my Patreon page in the description where you can download backing tracks and guitar tabs and diagrams to help practice the material from these lessons, but for now it's time to take a look at pattern 4. So like the other patterns, we're going to stick in the key of A, and once again we have a root note on the A string, so it's actually going to be exactly the same root note as the lower root in pattern 3, which is going to be on the 12th fret of the A string, only this time we're going to play it with first finger, and the bulk of the scale is going to be located towards the body rather than towards the headstock. So we're starting with that first finger on 12th fret A string. Following this, we're going to use little finger on the 15th fret on the A string, so 3 fret gap. Then moving on to D string, we've got first finger 12th fret again, third finger 14th fret, so only a tone gap. Same again on G string, so first finger's playing 12th fret, third finger's playing 14th fret. Now we've got another little position shift which we've seen in previous patterns where we're going to take that first and third finger, move them up a string and up 1 fret. So now on the B string, we're going to have first finger playing the 13th fret, and third finger playing the 15th fret. And then right at the top of the scale, a bit of a tricky part, the first finger is going to shift back to the 12th fret, and the third finger is going to lean over and play that 15th fret. So another tone and a half or 3 fret gap on the top of the scale. And then if we descend back to the root note, remember we had that 15th fret with little finger and first finger on 12th fret on the A string, and we're going to do the same on the bottom string. So little finger comes in and plays 15th fret low E, first finger 12th fret, and then to complete the cycle we'd have to go back to little finger and then resolve on that root note with the first finger on the 12th fret of the A. So one whole scale cycle, we're going first, little on A string, then first, third, first, third, shift them up a fret, first, third, then first finger jumps back to 12th, third finger can reach over and play the 15th, and then we're descending from there, so we're going third finger, first finger, bring them in, third, first, shift them down, third, first, then little, first, back to little, and then resolve on first finger. And then the whole scale without me talking so you can hear how it sounds. So that's one full scale cycle starting and ending on the root note. Next, we'll take a look at the root notes and intervals, and we've already discussed the lowest root note in the pattern, which in this key, the key of A, is the first finger playing the 12th fret on the A string, just the octave of the open string. And then we can also use an octave shape to find our next root note, so we're going to go along 2 frets and then up 2 strings. That would find the next A note. And remember that there are only 5 notes in a pentatonic scale, so if I play the 5 notes from the first root note, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the next one gives us the octave as well. So 2 ways of finding that one, and then there is an extra root note that we can use in this pattern. The very highest note in the scale, so up here on the 15th fret on the high E string, is actually a minor 7th, so if we bend that up a tone, up to the sound of the 17th fret, that gives us an extra root note. So you can use that bend at the end of phrases to create a nice little resolution on the root. And just to fill in the other intervals, remember we're starting on the root note on the 12th fret A, then we'd have minor 3rd, perfect 4th, perfect 5th, minor 7th, and then up into the next octave we've got the root note, then the minor 3rd, perfect 4th, perfect 5th, and then as we said minor 7th right on top. Then if we descend back down to the root, going below the root onto the bottom string, we've got the minor 7th on the 15th fret, and then the 5th on the 12th fret, and then we can rise back up to the root note and resolve there, and that gives you all the root notes and intervals in pattern 4. Now in terms of finger options, the first decision that you've got to make is the bottom 2 strings. Now because we're playing in the key of A, we're fairly high up the neck in this pattern, and I can actually stretch and play those tone and a half jumps with the 3rd finger if I want to. So 1st finger can play 12th fret, 3rd finger can reach over and play 15th fret, and I can use that on the bottom 2 strings. Or I can use little finger. Just depends what's best in whatever context you're playing. If you're playing in a key where you find this pattern located lower down the neck, you might end up using the little finger a bit more because the fret stretch will be wider. Now, if we're ascending from there, you're probably going to want to use 1st and 3rd fingers on the D, G and B strings. Even with that little position shift up to the B. It's just more convenient to keep using the 1st and 3rd fingers rather than try and use 2nd finger and little finger. Feels a little bit more awkward, and it's just a little bit more optimal for incorporating techniques into licks such as bends and hammer-ons and pull-offs and that sort of thing to prioritize the 1st and 3rd fingers. However, you've got to be open-minded and just use whatever fingers the lick is calling for. And on that note, you might also find yourself using 2nd finger on the 14th fret of the G in this key. For example, if you're just staying at the top of the pattern and we're incorporating techniques like the bend on the 15th fret, which I'm going to talk about shortly, I might just use that 2nd finger on the G string, so that I can keep the fingers all lined up nicely with those 3 frets. However, when you get to the top string, you're going to want to pull the 1st finger back to the 12th fret, which is a little bit awkward, but definitely something you can get used to. And then once again, we can either stretch, do the blues hand shape and use the 3rd finger to play the 15th fret, or we can do more of the classical shape and use the little finger to play the 15th fret with a 1 finger per fret system. Once again, it just depends on your style and how you like playing and the particular context in which you're using this pattern. Taking a look at string bends now, and I've mentioned a couple of them already so far. The first one being this tone bend on the very top note of the scale. In this key, that's going to be the 15th fret high E, and this is a minor 7th bending up to a root note, so the sound of the 15th fret bending up to the 17th. That's a super useful one, and as I mentioned, you can use it to resolve your licks on a root note. We've also got a tone bend option on the B string, also the 15th fret. Another super convenient bend that you can easily use in licks. And the final option is actually bending the root note on the G string, so this is going to be the 14th fret in this key. Now, we covered this in pattern 2, where we're actually bending the root note, and to stay in the full pentatonic scale, we've got to bend up a tone and a half, so that would be up from the 14th fret up to the sound of the 17th fret. That would be the pentatonic bend, but there is also the option of bending up a tone, which is one of the diatonic rather than pentatonic notes, which sounds very theory-ish. But basically, just use your ears, and sometimes it'll work and sometimes it won't, and you'll start to get used to when you can use certain bends in certain places. And I also mentioned in the pattern 2 video the Dave Gilmour style example where he bends up to the 2nd, then the 3rd, then resolves it. So you can always incorporate clever little tricks like that with bends as well. And finally, it's time to learn the pattern 4 lick that I based the demo around at the start of the lesson, which is going to sound like this. Now for this one, we're going to use that 2nd finger on the G string 14th fret that I mentioned in the finger options section. We're going to slide into that note to start the lick. 1st finger is then going to play a staccato note on the 13th fret of the B. Then we're going to bend, tone bend with 3rd finger on the 15th fret B. Now this next technique I call the bend and grab, because we're bending the B string and we're going to use the little finger to grab the top string while the bend is still in place. After this, pick the B string again and release the bend. So far we've got... And then to resolve the lick, we're going to go 1st finger on 13th fret B again, and then that root note with 2nd finger on 14th fret G. And put it all together. Now timing wise, this lick just uses 8th notes. We're just going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So pretty easy to fit in rhythmically, and you might want to try putting this into practice using the backing tracks on my Patreon page. They're just titled Groove in A, and they're just designed so you can experiment with these kind of licks. There's a couple of different feels, so there's straight feel, swung feel, and a bunch of different tempos so you can practice in different musical contexts, and they're a great platform for perfecting your licks and expanding them into full musical phrases. I hope that's helped you get started with pattern 4 of the minor pentatonic scale. As I've mentioned in every video so far, it's best to learn the patterns one at a time to avoid getting them all muddled up, so do take the time to memorize this one properly and get confident making music with it before moving on to the next. Remember, you can find the link to the full minor pentatonic lesson series in the description, as well as the link to my Patreon page where you can download those extra resources. Be sure to subscribe for more lessons, and I'd really appreciate you giving the video a like if you found it helpful, and I'll see you in the next lesson where we're going to cover the final pattern of the pentatonic scale, pattern 5.